I received a friend request from a peculiar woman who called herself the Harbinger of Shadows. Her profile picture showed a petite woman with auburn hair, piercing violet eyes, and alabaster skin. She seemed out of place on my carefully curated friends list. Normally, I avoid adding people who exhibit red flags, and her bizarre online persona definitely fell into that category. But something about her, perhaps that dark aura, held my attention. I'm usually extremely selective when it comes to my social media circle, keeping it under 300 people. It's a manageable number, an audience I can actually interact with. Over time, I've become adept at recognizing those whose posts are endless rants about politics, religion, or the banalities of daily life, and I unfriend them swiftly. But this time, curiosity got the better of me. The first message I received from her read, "Hello Alex. Call me Lyra." Her online moniker made me want to laugh, but I couldn't. Lyra's public posts were strange and unsettling. An obsession with historical atrocities, serial killers, and morbid statistics. She would share disturbing facts about the most notorious criminals with a chilling detachment. I considered removing her several times, but something kept me from doing it. There was something hypnotic in her oddity. When we first began talking privately, she was unexpectedly different, charming even. Over time, we moved from online chats to long phone conversations. Lyra never once brought up her disturbing interests when we spoke in private. Instead, she focused entirely on me. Every question she asked probed deeper into my psyche, like she was peeling away layers. It felt good, actually, having someone so completely invested in me. But whenever I tried to shift the conversation towards her, to learn something about her life, she'd deflect, always steering it back to me. After a couple of weeks, Lyra proposed we meet in person. "Why don't you come out to San Francisco? I'd love to spend time with you," she said in her soft, almost hypnotic voice. I froze. The idea of meeting her in person, especially someone like Lyra, unnerved me. I tried to play it off cool, laughing about how busy my life was, but before I knew it, I had agreed to fly out to California. Maybe it was her persistence or the way she made me feel unique and valued, something no one else in my life had done in years. On the day of the flight, the nerves kicked in. Sitting in the cramped seat on Flight 437 to San Francisco, I stared out the window, second-guessing everything. The plane was packed, and the stress of the crowded space made me more anxious. My head was swirling with what-ifs. A woman sitting near me was on the phone, giving her colleague a piece of her mind about some presentation gone wrong. I prayed for takeoff, if only to silence her incessant complaining. Her voice grated on my nerves, a high-pitched whine that made it hard to think straight. Boarding was dragging on longer than it should, but I tried to keep myself calm, telling myself this was just another step on the adventure I had chosen. Then something unusual happened. A striking woman boarded late, causing a commotion with the flight attendants. She was in her 40s, tall with a mane of silvery blonde hair that cascaded past her shoulders. She was dressed in a tight black leather jacket and boots, more appropriate for a rock concert than an airplane. I glanced over at her, trying not to stare, but something about her was magnetic. She argued with the attendant about her seat, insisting that she was supposed to be in the row directly behind mine. When she finally sat down, I felt a strange chill run down my spine. I tried to shake it off as just residual nerves from meeting Lyra, but when the woman stood up again to adjust her jacket, she looked directly at me and smiled, a wide, almost predatory grin. I looked away quickly, my heart racing. There was no way. It couldn't be. Could it? The flight attendant's announcement that we were cruising at 35,000 feet was a welcome distraction, and I settled back in my seat, trying to focus on the view of the clouds. The plane finally quieted as people around me started drifting off, exhausted from the long boarding process. I, however, couldn't sleep. My mind was still whirling with anxious thoughts about meeting Lyra. Then, without warning, the woman who had caused the earlier disturbance, now sitting in the row behind me, leaned forward, her silver blonde hair spilling over the seat. She whispered in my ear, "Hey Alex, miss me?" I jerked in my seat, turning to face her, my heart pounding. "Lyra," I asked, disbelief washing over me. This couldn't be happening. She smiled again, her violet eyes gleaming in the dim light of the cabin. "Surprise," she said softly, reaching out to touch my arm. "You didn't think I'd let you come all this way without me joining the fun, did you?" I wanted to scream. Lyra's voice was soft, almost affectionate, but there was something utterly wrong in her gaze. It was hungry. Before I could react, she stood up, moving with an eerie grace. The next thing I knew, she grabbed the man sitting across the aisle, snapping his neck like it was nothing more than a twig. His head twisted grotesquely to one side, eyes wide open in shock. Chaos erupted around me. Screams, panic, people unbuckling their seatbelts, trying to flee in the confines of the narrow aisles. But Lyra wasn't finished. She moved like a force of nature, her hands becoming blurs as she dispatched passengers one by one. I was frozen in place, too terrified to move. The plane seemed to be spiraling out of control, not physically, but through the sheer horror of what I was witnessing. Blood spattered across the seats and walls as she tore through people with unnatural strength. Her face transformed from the beautiful woman I'd spoken to for weeks into something monstrous. Her eyes glowing, teeth lengthened and sharp, her skin taking on a sickly, bluish hue. I tried to hide, cowering in my seat, but there was no escaping her. Lyra's laughter filled the cabin as the last of the passengers fell silent, and she turned her attention back to me. "Don't worry, Alex," she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. "I didn't bring you here to die. I brought you here for something much better." She knelt down beside me, her eyes locking onto mine. "You wanted to meet me, right? Well, here I am. And now you have a choice. You can join me, or you can die." I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Her words felt like poison, sinking into me with every second. She was offering me immortality, power, a life beyond this world of ordinary pain and monotony. It was insane, but then again, so was everything that had happened since she boarded this plane. My voice trembled. "I don't know. You'll know soon enough," she whispered, leaning in closer. "But for now, we have a long night ahead of us. And trust me, Alex, you'll love it." And with that, she pressed her lips to my neck. I felt the sharp sting of her bite, and the world went dark. When I woke up, I was no longer on the plane. I was in a dimly lit room, the scent of old wood and fire smoke hanging in the air. My skin tingled with a strange energy, and when I looked down at my hands, they no longer felt like mine. I wasn't the same. I was hers now. And whatever came next, well, it was out of my hands.